Hello and welcome once again to Max Level, a show where I give my honest opinion of an MMORPG, then tell you whether it's worth the time, effort, and sometimes money to reach max level. Let's begin. Today I'll be reviewing Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn, which I refer to as ARR for the rest of this review. ARR is a remake of the original Final Fantasy XIV Online, which was released in 2010 and was a complete failure. The creators, Square Enix, decided to name the first version Version 1, and ARR the version 2.0. Square Enix completely redesigned the team and the game. They actually make a reference to Version 1 in the game. They refer to it as the Calamity. Essentially, it is a virtual extinction event. Anyway, as I mentioned before, the game was developed and published by Square Enix and re-released on August 27, 2013. ARR is pay-to-play with an initial cost of around $30 to $40 and then an additional $15 a month. It is available through retail and playable on both Windows and PlayStation 3. This review is of the PC version and as of patch 2.2. Let's begin with character creation. The character creation is nice. I was quite happy with the options I had at my disposal. Nothing too crazy, but a good selection of hair choices for the most part. The jaws, eyes, and mouth options were rather useless to me. I don't mess with them anyways too much in any other MMOs, but yeah. One problem is that there's no color wheel for hair. This makes it almost impossible to have certain kinds of colors like fiery red hair or bright red hair. Since those are not an option, I can't have them at all. Overall, the customization was decent. Customization is not something I'm crazy for, because for most characters you just cover up their face with armor anyways, but I was definitely pleased with it. You have 5 races to choose from, and 8 classes to choose from. Something cool they added was that races have their own stats, so one race is better at magic or tanking than another race. This allows you to devise a strategy or a build, if you will, to make the best character you can make stat-wise. And for the most part, each class has their own unique gameplay style, and definitely fun to explore all the different classes. Now, graphics and sound. ARR is beautiful. The graphics are really magnificent. I was quite mesmerized when I first stepped into the glowy and bright universe of Final Fantasy. Which, I actually didn't do that because when I first started it was nighttime, but still, it was beautiful. And yes, ARR has a day-night system. And damn, does Limsa Lominsa ever look stunning at night? Actually, it looks stunning all the time, but you get my point. In conclusion, the graphics are really good. Now on to the less exciting topic, sound. ARR doesn't have much voice acting, only for certain cutscenes in the storyline. The voice acting is decent. In some parts I actually laughed at how bad some of the writing was.
Damn it all to the 7th hell!
And feeling bad for some of the voice actors who tried to put life into such a dull script. Sadly, in many cases, they indeed failed. Other than that, the sound of weapon clashing and hitting people is pretty good. Now on to story. A Realm Reborn takes place in a realm called Eorzea. Eorzea holds a magical substance throughout her mass called Aether, which is seeked by all and causes many wars. Now let's take a few steps back and go eons ago to the first astral era. During that era, gods and goddesses inhabited Eorzea and they blessed wandering tribes. The tribes of course could not contain themselves and they began fighting. Thus the gods and goddesses abandoned Eorzea, which started the first Umbral era. Skip eons ahead, and here you have the 7th Umbral era, in which A Realm Reborn takes place. A new Umbral era begins when a catastrophe occurs, such as war, or a devastating game launch, as the 6th Umbral era, aka Final Fantasy XIV Online version 1.0 experienced. Anyways, what really happened was that the Dalamud, the Elder Primal Bahamut, whatever, the point is the motherfucker broke free from his captivity and descended upon the Battle of Cartonau. This marked the beginning of the 7th Umbral era. Now here's where you come in. There are 3 major city-states that exist within Eorzea. They are Ul'dah, Limsa Lominsa, and Gridania. Each one of these major city-states holds a Grand Company, which are military organizations that defend the land. After a while of proving yourself, you now apply to a Grand Company of your choice and help further their goals and keep Eorzea a peaceful and happy place. Insult incoming. It's a boring fucking storyline. A cliche, non-interesting fantasy world filler story that I could give less of a shit about. First of all, it doesn't help that I already don't give a shit about story in an MMO, but damn, with this boring ass storyline, I don't know who would choose to read all the quest text. Honestly, this isn't even really fantasy cliche, it's just overall really cliche. But hey, you might be into that stuff, so have at it, but it's not for me, obviously. Let's get into quests, shall we? Quests fucking suck too. Kill quests, gather quests, talking and talking and talking, and also walking around and clicking stuff quests. I don't know a better name for these clicking quests, but let me explain one to you. Walk up to a lamppost, refill it with oil, do 4 more times, hand in quest. It's really, really, really boring. I suggest getting like a TV series or some podcast or something to distract you when you're questing, because it gets really fucking boring. Especially the beginning of the game. I don't think I fought a monster for maybe the first 15 to 30 minutes of gameplay. You're just walking around accepting quests and doing petty quests. It's a really slow and bad start to the game. It really is. I don't know why they took the approach they did, but it was a really bad idea. Finally, one last thing about quests. There are random events that occur through the world, and though they are pretty useless at lower levels, maybe just used to get a bit more XP to level up, they become way more useful at around level 20 plus. By level 20, you can have your first mount, your own chocobo, which is supplied by your grand company, which you of course need to purchase the chocobo license off of them, but not with gold, instead with seal commendations, which you can acquire in 2 ways: by leave mets, which are essentially instance quests, and by cleaning up Eorzea via random events called fates. Not only do you get commendations for them, but they are great XP grinders. At around level 30 to 50, you'll begin to come across more and more people doing random events, and in a lot of cases, they're looking for a group to do the events with. People join the party, and before you know, you have 20 plus people just demolishing the random events, grinding them out 10k XP after 10k XP, and even at some points 20k plus XP for when it comes to the harder fates. This is a really great way to level up, and you might make some friends on the way. That's all I've got to say about quests. I'm sure you get my displeasement with the questing. Let's move on. So like I said before, there are 3 major city-states: Ul'dah, Limsa Lominsa, and Gridania. These are the 3 starter areas, though spawning in them does not base off of race, but instead off of class. The cities all have different experiences to be had. The maps are different, the storyline is of course the same, but there is a different dialogue. For example, the Gridania leader is very calm and collective, and the Ul'dah leader is angry and mean. Little differences, but they're noticeable. I have also already talked about the fates, so let me explain more. Now of course, as I've said, they're great for XP, for meeting people, and for having some fun. Usually when something gives you good XP and isn't a dungeon or a quest, then you're shit out of luck for gear. However, that is not the case in ARR. After doing faith, you get seal commendations like I mentioned before. Not only can you use them to buy your chocobo license from your grand company, but with those seals you can also buy armor, materials, and weapons. Armor and weapons will have additional attributes. This makes the grinding of fates something useful. The only issue I have with all of that is that you have to unlock the better armor and weapons through promotions, which cost seals. After a certain amount of promotions, you have to get your hunting rank up. This means that you have to hunt down multiple different enemies in different locations so that you can finally promote. The problem I have with this is that there is a cap on the amount of seals you can have, and to raise the cap, you have to promote to a higher rank. So if you're full on seals, then hunting will give you seals that you can't use, so it's just a big waste of time. You have to teleport, run around, and search Eorzea to find these motherfuckers. It isn't fun. It wastes time that you could be hanging out with guildies, doing fates, raids, dungeons, and quests. I guess this is Square Enix's failsafe to prevent making it easy to get great armor and just blasting through the game. Now the combat. The combat is decent. There is tab targeting bullshit sadly, but it doesn't ruin the combat. The animations are great and they give you a wide selection of skills and the ability to combine skills to make them deal more damage. An interesting aspect of the combat is something called enmity, or just simply threat. This comes into play mostly during dungeons where the threat spreads out between players. The tank does not have a taunt, so he has to instead use abilities that create threat, and this makes early level tanking almost useless because you have no abilities to create enough threat and your teammates are doing a lot of damage and healing, which takes threat away from you and instead enemies attack your teammates. This makes the tank a lot more difficult to play and forces him or her to pay more attention so he or she can retain threat. I love this feature a lot. The tank does not only have to focus on his enemies at hand, but also he has to keep an eye on his energy distribution so he can continue using skills, but also keeping up with the healer and the DPS damage so he can retain threat. This adds a whole new gameplay to the tank, much more difficult and fun. Though the dungeons are nothing special. They give a ton of XP, but nothing different. There are also raids, which are just like any other MMO as well, where it just quantifies the amount of people killing shit. Overall, nothing too different from other MMOs. There are also job advancements, like in many other games, but ARR makes it unique. Let's take for example the Monk. The Monk is a job advancement for the Puglist and Lancer. To become a Monk, you must be a level 30 Puglist and level 15 Lancer on the same character. You can literally have every class and gathering job level 50 on one character, but they will just be weaker in places such as magic, etc. But it's very cool being able to play two classes on one character, and has a customization feeling to it. Being able to take abilities from the Lancer and use them on the Puglist. Let me explain this customization feeling that it has to it. Take the Paladin for example. It is not a traditional class in the game. You have to be a level 30 Gladiator and level 15 Conjurer. Level 15 Conjurer is needed so that you can take the healing and buff spells from that class. Don't want to heal yourself but instead have more health than any other class in the game? Then become a Warrior. You only need to be level 15 Gladiator and level 30 Marauder. The way they do advancements is fun. It's unique and actually makes sense. It makes sense that a Paladin will require part Conjurer because Paladins require healing and buffing spells. So Gathering. Now, Gathering in this game is not really a profession as much as it is a class. Like other classes, you have to equip a weapon of that class to become it. So for mining, you need to equip a pickaxe. For armor smithing, you need to equip a hammer, etc. And you become a level 1 in that class. The nice thing is that you can have as many gathering skills as you want and help yourself out, but it takes an immense amount of time to level them to max because of course they are treated just as another class would. Now crafting is extremely useful in this game. At level 50 you can make PvP gear that has special morale stats, so that you are kind of forced to craft it if you want to be useful in PvP. But I would have much more enjoyed being able to mine or armorsmith while still being the Marauder class I chose, instead of practically having a completely new character. Alright, so PvP is next. Now I do enjoy the PvP. It's fun, it's competitive, and it's difficult. The biggest problem is that there is only one PvP mode at this time. Maybe they will add more, but as of now, as of patch 2.2, there's only one PvP mode. Keep that in mind, so if you come watching the review months later after I put this up, it will probably be changed. The PvP mode is called the Wolves Den. The Wolves Den is an arena that can fit up to 8 people, 4 on each team. This is first unlockable at level 30, in which joining it higher than level 30 will auto-adjust you to level 30. The Wolves Den unlocks again every 10 levels after it, so again at level 40 and then again at level 50. Now if you don't have your crafted PvP gear at level 50 and you try to join the Wolves Den, you will be flamed and crucified because of it. Sadly enough, but it happens. And finally, to finish off, I wanted to talk about housing. In ARR, they have what is called a free company, which is a fancy name for a guild. Guild members can put gold together and buy a plot of land. The really cool aspect of this is that there are districts and wards, which are essentially cities. Even though the city is a separate area of the game, you literally buy land from the city. So other guilds will have their houses around you and you will be able to see them around town. Of course, you can fully customize your house with all the props and everything they have available. There's not much else I can say because my free company did not have a house. Now, Endgame. Let me clarify, Endgame begins when you reach the max level. Any content after reaching the max level counts as Endgame. So of course there's PvP and creating all your PvP gear. This will probably take the longest for 2 reasons. For one, you need a lot of money. Secondly, you need to max out the crafting skills needed to create the gear for your character. This will take hours and hours and hours. So have fun crafting. But it pays off to level your crafting, so you can be the best that you can be in PvP. The extra leveling doesn't end there. You can literally max out every class on one character, like I said before, but you don't really need to. But it is recommended to max your secondary class, so if you are a paladin, then you would also want to max conjurer after gladiator. Dungeons are also something that would keep you playing. They have a feature called duty roulette, where you can queue up and get a random dungeon. The benefit of this is that you can get bonus rewards. Like other MMOs, there are hard mode versions of dungeons. There are also, of course, raids that you can do, and you have to unlock them by doing dungeons, so that could take some time. Housing could take a lot of time to do also, to decorate and to collect the money with your guildies. That's of course if you even give a shit about housing, but assuming that maybe you want to find something to work to, that would definitely be something worth doing. I feel like I should be adding more, but for the last 3 MMO reviews, including this one, when I get to Endgame I struggle finding something worth mentioning. It gets so boring. I'm the type of person who can get bored somewhat easily. If a game does not entertain me, then I move on, and honestly I moved on quite quickly after reaching max level in ARR. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. I do think it's fun, and I understand why some people utterly love this game, but the endgame is where this lost me. I just couldn't bother maxing my crafting or queuing up for dungeons. I think it's time for the final verdict. It seems like I'm harsh on games I enjoy. In my Terra review I was harsh on that game, but in the end I really enjoyed it. And this is coming to the same conclusion. I really did enjoy the game. I enjoyed the time I spent playing ARR. I thought it was very fun. Granted, the end game was pretty boring and I didn't care for the story, but the gameplay is a lot of fun and enough for me. I mean, I played this game alone. I don't usually play MMOs alone, so it's saying something that I enjoyed this game so much, even though I played it alone. Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn is a solid 7 out of 10. I think A Realm Reborn is a great game and a game that I will be coming back to in the future, in which I practically never do for MMOs. There is a great amount of customization, very unique and fun features, fun combat, and fun classes. Even though I like the game, there are still a lot of things I didn't like about it and that I just can't ignore. I was debating on giving A Realm Reborn an 8 out of 10, but I realized that there was too much stuff I didn't like to give it a score like that. A 7 out of 10 seems perfect to me. Finally, I think Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn is worth the time, effort, and money to reach max level. Thanks for watching.